Welcome today to our Cats in the Corner office. University of Arizona Alumni Association welcomes UA alumni, students, and friends as we meet with UA alumnus Mike McCarley, president of NBC Golf. I'm Melinda Burke, president of the UA Alumni Association, and I thank you for joining us this afternoon. This event is part of our UA Alumni Career and Professional Development Lab. The Career Lab helps alumni find jobs, build their professional networks, and advance their careers. For more information, please visit arizonaalumni.com/careers. Today's conversation is being recorded and it will be archived on the Alumni Association website for members of the Alumni Association to access on demand. Questions are welcome at any time during this interview, and if you're on Twitter, please send your questions to @UAAlumniPres, or you can email them to kalita@arizona.edu. So thank you again for joining us today. Now let's get started. I'd like to introduce our guest. Mike McCarley oversees NBC Universal's worldwide portfolio of golf assets, including the Golf Channel, one of the fastest growing networks on U.S. television since joining NBC Sports Group, Golf Channel on NBC, golfchannel.com, and .golf Now, and the company's range of golf lifestyle businesses. Under Mike's leadership, Golf Channel has expanded its programming and increased viewership. Prior to his role overseeing golf for the NBC Sports Group, McCarley served as Senior Vice President for Communications, Marketing, and Promotions with NBC Sports and Olympics since August of 2008. He created the award-winning Sunday Night is Football Night campaign and was the architect of NBC Sports' highly successful Big Event strategy. Mike, an Emmy Award winner, joined NBC in February 2000 as the Communications Director for NBC Olympic Division. Mike graduated from the University of Arizona in 1997, so please join me in welcoming our Cat in the Corner office, Mike McCarley. So welcome, Mike. Let us start with a little bit about your work as president of the Golf Channel. What is the career path that you took that led you to this position?
Well, Golf Channel is a business that's been around for 20 years, and I'm coming to you today as the Palmer conference room that's named after the founder of Golf Channel, Arnold Palmer, who all these photos behind me are different parts of Mr. Palmer's career. And while he doesn't take an active role in Golf Channel anymore, he was incredibly important in founding of this place and continuing to build it over time. And he's still just a few miles away at Bay Hill Club and Lodge, his golf course and resort here in Orlando. And I still see him quite a bit. So we just celebrated our 20th anniversary this past year. As a business, we've been on quite a run for the last 4 or 5 years since Comcast bought NBC Universal, and the sports assets of Comcast, Golf Channel being one of them, became part of the NBC Sports Group. Golf Channel is available in about 200 million homes in 80 some odd countries around the world. In the last several years, it's been the fastest growing network on U.S. television, as you said. And the future is very, very bright. Golf makes its return to the Olympics for the first time next year in Rio de Janeiro after more than a 100-year absence. The game is growing considerably all around the world, and we're making investments all around the world and having a lot of fun. The media landscape, the media business is changing considerably. The way we all consume media is changing. Everything can be time shifted or viewed on demand when you want to see it. So much of what you want to see from a video standpoint, you get right now just on your phone. So that's changing our world a little bit. But television still continues to be driven by big events, live events. And that's where I got my start with NBC, overseeing marketing for the Olympics and franchises like Sunday Night Football. And now, a lot of my role is translating that to grow the game of golf here in the United States and around the world. Well, I think content is king, as everyone in the media industry likes to say. But the trends that that are prevalent across all television channels everywhere else are looking at live content, any sort of live sporting event, live reality show, live award shows are doing better than anything else. They're all doing better than they ever have at any time in the past. So there's a real trend for more and more live programming because that's how we like to consume and kind of gather and be involved in this social experience that social media is actually helping fuel around live events.
Mm-hmm. And can you give us a sense of the business overall? Many of us may only be familiar with the cable network.
Yeah, well, you've got a Golf Channel, 24/7, 365. We've got live tournaments from all around the world at any given parts of the day. We've got news that surround those live tournaments. We've got instruction for people who want to play the game better. And then we've got other businesses that are associated with the media business, which are Golf Now, which is, for lack of a better term, is open table for golf. It's where you go to book a tee time, just like you would go to Open Table to book a dinner reservation. We've got Golf Advisor, which is a recommendation and ratings review website, which is a lot like Yelp for golf courses. We've got Golf Channel Academies, which are 60 some odd different facilities around the country and in Canada where you can go and actually take an in-person lesson from top instructors in the game. And the list goes on and on and on. And we're adding channels in more countries as golf continues to grow around the world. And we will see a big boon to the game of golf and the popularity of golf around the world when golf returns to the Olympics next August, for sure.
That's great. So you can actually make a tee time on any golf course through Golf Now?
Yeah, you can go to one of 9,300 golf courses, mostly in North America, UK, and book a tee time right there. And it's really, when you used to think about how you would get a tee time at a golf course, you would call. And you ask for 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and that's not available. You hang up and you call the next place. Now you do a quick search, all the available tee times, all the available prices, twosomes, foursomes, singles, what have you, is all there available for ease of a consumer. It also helps the golf course more efficiently run their business.
That's awesome. I will try that out. So what of all these things you just described, what's the most exciting for you and for the Golf Channel's future?
For me, it's still, you get a real charge out of assembling a large audience to watch what is really a social event on TV. We at NBC have been fortunate enough to do every Summer Olympics since 1988. I've done 10 Olympics myself, and when you start to get the ratings in and the report cards that you get on a regular basis in this business, you get a real sense of accomplishment when you know that a large group of people assemble to watch a program. And a lot of times in these rare instances, you get a really compelling game, like a big NFL game or something like that, a Super Bowl, where you break records and more people watch than ever before. And on the very rare occasions, there's something that happens, it often happens in an Olympics, where something really moving or impactful or emotional happens that drives people to do something. And that's the power of this medium. I mean, television is in nearly every home in our country. And when you have a great story and you tell it well, you can move people to do great things. And there's still a very rewarding and very powerful part of this job at the very base level that's important. And it's also something that is very competitive. If you're a competitive person, this is a great business to work in because you get a report card on how you did every single day. We get ratings reports. And those are compared to all of our competitors. Those are compared to how did we do on that same day last week or that same day last year. And you're constantly trying to improve and you're constantly trying to strive and move things forward. And that makes it a lot of fun as well. the tedious nature of all of us who are in any jobs who come to work every day. And sometimes you've got some pretty mundane things you do. But when you get a report card that's graded on what your performance was the previous day, it makes it fun.
That's great.
And it makes it challenging, and also at times makes it pretty damn demanding. But when you get it right, it's really rewarding.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be. I think we have a couple of videos. Do we have a video? May not be available right now, so we'll wait a little bit. So I'm curious about your experience at the university and how that set you up for this amazing success. I'm sure you knew when you started at the U of A, this is where you were headed?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I had no idea. People ask me all the time. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. They ask me all the time, how did you end up in Tucson? And I don't think there was any one reason other than I think I was trying to chase the sunshine. And I found it for sure. But what I lucked into was an environment that was perfect for the career that I ultimately decided I wanted to do. So in my sophomore year, I started to figure out that I think I wanted to work in sports. I love sports. I played sports, every sport as a kid. I finally figured out I wasn't going to become an Olympic athlete or play in the NBA or any of those great things. So I knew the next best thing was probably working in sports, and it was a matter of kind of finding the right path and the right way in. And I was fortunate enough at the time where Tom Duddleston, who was the sports information director at the U of A, recently just retired, but is still very involved at the athletic department. I kept bugging him to try and let me come and work and just volunteer in the athletic department. And he finally told me to come in at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning and meet him there. And I think this was probably the test that he did for a lot of students, where if you show up at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning, you're pretty dedicated. So I still to this day, I don't know if I did not go to bed from the night before or if I woke up very early, but I got there at about 7:45 and I was waiting for him in his office when he showed up. And I got there and he put me to work. And for the last several years of my stay there in Tucson, I was lucky enough to be exposed to a lot of things and working in the athletic department. When we won the NCAA championship, that great Final Four in Indianapolis, going to the swimming national championships and working with all the different coaches and all the different programs to really try and build the brand that is U of A athletics. Things like working for our different television partners that would come into town for different events, where I would do stats, sit next to Chick Hearn when the Lakers came into town for an exhibition game against the Suns, doing stats for baseball, football, basketball, always being in the broadcast booth with the announcers who were coming in to do those games, gave me a great education into this business at a time where I had no idea I was going to work in television at the time. I just knew I wanted to work in sports. That experience at the athletic department led to the Sports Marketing Association, which was a student-run organization that was really founded with the athletic department, where we help run a lot of marketing events, and that organization is still up and running and doing very well. It's grown quite a bit. I've been back to speak to them a few times. It's something I'm pretty proud of, that it's really taken off. And these kids today, the students who are involved in this, are leaps and bounds more knowledgeable about the industry than any of us were at the time. And that all of that experience, that was all real world experience that I was getting at the time because of the athletic department. And I think that was a benefit of going to a big school that has a lot to offer and has a lot of teams who are at national caliber and are getting a lot of attention in a lot of different media outlets. It led me to, kind of trying to figure out how to tailor my own curriculum to give myself the experience in classes and things that I needed to learn more about this business that I could apply when it came time to finding jobs later on. So media arts classes, journalism classes, advertising classes in the business school, and a great resource, a terrific resource that not a lot of people know about is the Racetrack Industry Program, which is universally recognized around the world. It's the best program for any student who's looking to get into the racing industry. Most of it is revolved around horse racing. But I was able to sit in as a student on classes, and we had guest lecturers from different television networks, different major sports sponsors from around the world, and kind of be introduced and mentored by some of these people that I would have had no exposure to if I wouldn't have stumbled upon this relatively small program, but a really powerful one in the horse racing industry. Bob Baffert, who's the trainer of the Triple Crown winner American Pharoah, is probably the most famous alumni of that group. But it's a really tight-knit group, and I still stay in touch with some of the instructors there that I've seen when I'm back in Tucson for certain golf events and things like that. Doug Reed, who runs the program, has been a good friend, and we'll go to dinner every once in a while when I'm back there and we catch up. They've invited me back to speak at the annual symposium that the students put on for the entire horse racing industry. So you have all of these very powerful people in the horse racing world descend on Tucson every winter to come to this symposium that's run by the students. And it's a very, very important part of the horse industry calendar and the racing industry calendar. And when I was at NBC and in charge of marketing the Kentucky Derby in a new and kind of at the time out of the box way, they invited me back to come and speak to the entire industry. They were proud of me of being someone who came up through that program, and I was very proud to represent that program from a television standpoint, because I hadn't necessarily hadn't necessarily had a lot of people who were working in television that came out of that program yet. So I would say making the decision to go to the U of A, while at the time I didn't really know why I was making the decision, because of the size and the scale of all of the different opportunities that are available there, it made for what was a very good choice for me at the time, and I wouldn't change any of it looking back on it now.
That's awesome. One of the other observations I would make, however, is that you also made the most of the experience. You found ways to create an experience around your interests that really launched your career.
Yeah, it was at the time I was really focused on almost building my own experience, because I had a general idea of what I wanted to do, but I didn't necessarily know how to get there. So very methodically, with the help of a few folks along the way, I was able to get there. And I think a lot of it had to do, I was tenacious in trying to ask for student internships and things like that. Trying to be the first one there and the last to leave in the athletic department, and volunteering for any odd jobs, led to more opportunities. It led to more opportunities with the Tucson Toros, the minor league team at the time, and the Phoenix Coyotes, and some other things that I was looking to do. And when it came time for me to start looking for jobs, there were a lot of jobs out there because of the experience that I had built while I was a student. I didn't realize it at the time, but while I was going to school, I was also building a pretty good resume of real world experience that I know as we look at students who are coming out of school now to hire, the internships and the experiences that they've had are really important and help separate them from other students who are just coming out of school who don't necessarily have a lot of real world experience.
That's great.
But I understand now there is a sports marketing major that is very popular, and it almost sounds like what I was trying to create for myself is now offered as something that's a very organized and creating a path for people who want to get into this industry. So I applaud you guys tremendously for that. I think that's incredible that you recognize this is an industry, this is a business that a lot of students want to get into, and it's very rewarding business because of the passion that so many people feel for sports.
That's awesome. Well, we are getting a couple of questions, so let me give you the first one, which comes from Mark, and I would encourage all of our viewers to submit questions. We've got a few minutes, or we've got about 30 minutes left, so we're looking for questions. The first one comes from Mark. How important is an alumni connection in business, and has a U of A connection ever helped you in your career?
That's a good question. I would say, I don't know if an alumni connection is incredibly important in business necessarily. I think there's I work with a lot of people who went to Ivy League schools, and that there's a tremendous network and loyalty at the Harvards and the Yales and that sort of thing. Stanford has that to a certain degree. Notre Dame has that to a certain degree. But it's funny, in my current role here, Dan Hicks, who many of you people I'm sure know is the face and the voice of NBC Golf. He also calls some of the biggest events during the Olympics, all of Michael Phelps' record-breaking races. He's the play-by-play voice on NBC. He went to the U of A. He grew up in Tucson, went to South Point High School. He was a local anchor at KVOA, I believe, for quite some time before going to CNN and ultimately coming to NBC. But more important than Dan in this process is Tommy Roy, who is a 60-some-odd Emmy Award-winning producer, who was the executive producer at NBC Sports when I got there. Grew up in Tucson, was the son of a golf pro in Tucson, left the U of A and went directly to New York for a job at NBC Sports and worked his way up. But all he ever wanted to do was play golf. And he even tried to make his way on some of the mini tours and make his way as a professional golfer, and kind of being the son of a golf pro, living in Tucson, graduating from the U of A. Now, he and I work so closely together as he is our lead producer on all of the biggest events in golf. And during the Olympics, he produces some of the biggest sports at the Olympics as well. Also a U of A guy. Tom Tolbert, I worked with for quite some time when he was doing NBA for NBC, another U of A alum. You run into people along the way. There's always a very good connection. John Ernst, who's one of the top production people at Fox Sports, graduated from the U of A. So you do have a network of people, and there's kind of an acknowledgement and a kinship, I think, and like a friendly way of looking out for each other. Scott McKenzie, who's still involved with the U of A in a lot of instances, is the IMG representative who oversees a lot of the sales initiatives for the U of A. Did not go to school there, but he was working in the athletic department when I was there, and we're still very close. A lot of the folks that worked in the athletic department is either graduate assistants or student assistants when I was there. We've all stayed in really good contact with one another, and you see each other every once in a while. And everyone's scattered at different places in the sports industry, but they all come back, and you kind of keep up with one another. I think social media has made it easier to keep up with people. Just email has made it easier to keep up with people. These are things that did not exist when I was in school. And there is a real advantage to that now, for sure, for people who are coming out of school and potentially looking for jobs.
That's great. So your first job out of college, where did you go? Did you stay in Tucson, or did you move away?
It was very interesting. I had a couple of opportunities when I was coming out of school. I worked pretty much nonstop for the athletic department ever since that sophomore year time frame when I was looking to get out. And then I went and worked at the Atlanta Olympics one summer when I was in school, and had various odd jobs, always trying to stay within the sports industry. I had a job offer to stay in Tucson at a sports marketing agency that at the time paid quite well. But I made a decision to move to Dallas, Texas, and work for the Mavericks, and got paid peanuts for about a year. but started working with their television production group and getting paid a little bit more to make ends meet. And at the end of that year, my boss at the time had said, "Hey, look, you've got a lot of opportunity ahead of you. We don't have a job for you that's going to be meaningful right now. Why don't you go look around? But we'll work together some other time. Let's stay in touch." So I went, at that point, at the end of my first year out of school, I went to Colorado Springs, where I worked for the U.S. Olympic Committee. USA Triathlon triathlon was a new Olympic sport that was about to come into the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. So I was really focused on that with the U.S. Olympic Committee for about 2 years. And then my old boss from the Dallas Mavericks called me and said, "Hey, I'm moving to New York, and I told you we would all work together at some point again in the future. I didn't realize it was going to be this fast, but I need someone who really understands the Olympics. And I can't tell you what the job is because I don't have it yet, but the first job they want me to hire for is someone who really understands the Olympics, who can kind of oversee our Olympic project." So I without knowing what the job was and knowing I was going to have to move from quiet, very peaceful Colorado Springs to New York City, I said yes. And then later when he got the job, he told me it was at NBC, and I had one foot out the door, and I was still involved with the Olympics. I was still dealing with a lot of the people I was dealing with in Colorado Springs at the U.S. Olympic Committee. But that was in 2000. I was 26 years old. For whatever reason, the chairman of NBC Sports, Dick Ebersol at the time, who's a legend in the industry, he and I developed was a pretty unique relationship. And he, for whatever reason, brought me into rooms and brought me into meetings and included me in things that I had no business being involved in. And I was lucky enough to just be smart enough to know that I shouldn't be opening my mouth and I should just be trying to soak everything up like a sponge. And luckily I did. And I've been with NBC Sports ever since. And it's been a great ride. Different roles and different responsibilities along the way now. I'm in Florida, working on golf, which I love. We've got 4 kids and very happy. And as you say, as people say, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great opportunity. Well, I have a couple of questions. We've got one coming right here from Tom, who's a former U of A golfer, who's asking, how does the streaming revolution affect watching golf on TV, and how will the Golf Channel adjust?
We adjusted a couple of years ago. Everything that you see on television, you can get streamed to any device that you have, as long as you can prove that you're paying your cable bill, which is through TV Everywhere, authentication, or whatever you call it. You can watch everything that you can see on TV. You can get on your iPhone, or your tablet, or whatever. And in fact, a lot of times when I'm out at a kid's soccer game or something like that on the weekends when I'm home, I'll watch Golf Channel on television, or our events on NBC on my iPhone while I'm sitting on the sidelines of a soccer game. So I would say it has definitely changed the way you have to think about producing content, because watching a live event is relatively easy. You watch it the same way, it's just on a smaller screen. But we have a feeling that you will always watch a sporting event on the best screen available. So the best experience is sitting at home with or without your friends, with a refrigerator nearby on a big screen, HD TV, which in the next few years will probably become a 4K TV, which is about 4 times the clarity of the current HD. That's by far and away the best experience. But we all know life gets in the way, and you can't always be at home in front of your big screen TV. Sometimes you're going to be off doing whatever it is you're doing. So if you have your tablet, you want to watch the game, you can. If you have your iPhone and you need to pull it out and check a score and watch a couple of highlights, you can do that too. But the best screen available is always going to win. And the key is for us to make that content available on all devices, on all screens at all times. So whichever one you choose, to use at that time, you can get it there. I would say for golf in particular, there's a revolution that we've been noticing over the last year or so. The iPhone is becoming one of the best swing aids, things that people are using to fix their golf game while they're on a range. You're seeing more and more people, taking their iPhone and filming their buddies swing and then trying to see what they're doing wrong and correct it. So we have an app called Golf Channel Academy that's got 20 different years of instruction tips. So you can get, how to fix your slice from Tiger Woods or Arnold Palmer or Jack Nicklaus or Jordan Spieth or anyone else. And that is becoming a device that, you're working on the range or you're out playing the game and you want to get a tip. You can look it up very easily, and within a minute or two, you can have 2 or 3 different tips on how to fix your golf game. That's something that before smartphones were available, it was something that was never could even be contemplated. But now we've got 20 years of all the archives at Golf Channel of all of these great instruction tips and teaching tips that are now right in the palm of your hand, and you can pull them up while you're playing the game, which is awesome. Something that's unique to golf. You can watch a baseball game on ESPN, but they're not going to teach you how to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Golf is a lifestyle sport. Golf is a lifestyle for a lifetime. So Arnold Palmer, our founder, picked up a golf club when he was 3 years old. He's now just turned 86, and he hasn't put a golf club down. And it's one of those great things that people pick up at a young age, and it continues throughout their entire life. So we've built a media business around that lifestyle, and I think it's a pretty unique proposition in the world today.
That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about leadership. Move away from golf just a little bit and tell us some of your early lessons. What were some of the early things you learned about leadership?
Oh, man. I think, you have to, if you're in a leadership position, I think you have to understand that people want to be led. No one comes to work any day ever wanting to do a bad job. Everyone wants to do a great job. It's just sometimes they need to know what that is and how to do that. And what we found is that there's a real connection. If you know how what you do every day when you come to work really connects to help the people around you and helps them succeed, and then how does that help your company succeed, and then how does that help achieve a certain vision that your company has, you're a great employee. But that's hard. It's really hard to understand how some of the really mundane things that you do every day connect to the success of the overall company. So I encourage our employees to ask questions. Why did we do something a certain way? Why did we make this decision? I don't understand this. Because the more you understand those decisions and how certain things connect to the ultimate goals of the company, the better you're going to be at your job, and the more opportunity you're going to have in your career. Because you need to be able to see the big picture, and you need to be able to see the entire field. And if we've got a group of about 1,000 employees who work at Golf Channel now, and if all of them could have a little bit broader view of our business and understand our business and how what they do every day really matters to help the company win, the entire company is going to be a heck of a lot better. So there's a real education that I think that is important for leaders to understand, that you can't feel like you need to do things yourself. And the more that you train and teach other people to do something, that's one less thing that you have to worry about doing, and that frees you up to do something else. And if you think about that, if everyone's doing that across an entire organization, year after year, everyone begins to operate at a higher level, which means the entire organization and the entire business is operating at a higher level. And if you don't do that, you're going to be standing still, which in this day and age, if you're standing still, you're dead.
You're losing.
You have to keep moving forward.
So do you have any specific mentors that have been important leaders for you?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of people that, you pick up things over the years. I think the one that I give credit to the most, and other people around me give credit to the most for me was Mr. Eversole, the guy that hired me from the Dallas Mavericks was a man named Kevin Sullivan, who later became the communications director for President Bush at the White House. And I'm still very close to a lot of these people. We still talk and have kind of long, wide-ranging conversations about different things that are going on in the world. But I think there's a fundamental difference when some people talk about managers and leaders. And there's a real difference in someone who's coming in and they want to manage people as opposed to people who are going to lead people. There's a real difference in that. And I think you want to lead to a place where there's a real goal and there's something attainable. And once you achieve that goal, or once you attain that success as an organization, you have to celebrate it. It's a way to get repeat behavior. It's a way for more and more people to achieve more success and understand what's important. One of the things that we try to do here is we talk a lot about creating a culture of collaboration. You don't want to have any silos within an organization. You don't want one team doing one thing and another team doing another, when they should really be combining their efforts to make everything that much better. I think there's a lot of simple things. I often talk about we're part of a really big company. I mean, Comcast is a huge media company. One of the largest cable companies in the world. NBC Universal's got 20 some odd television channels, both in English and Spanish, nearly 100 different websites in multiple languages. There are people in the company who do what you need them to do. If you have a great idea, you just have to find that right person. So you want to be in the middle of a culture where people are rewarded for collaborating, because a lot of times it's finding that person within this big company who can really help you achieve what it is you need to achieve. But unless everyone in the company understands that collaboration is important, a lot of organizations you'll go into, people don't necessarily want to help each other. But we are fortunate enough to work in a system where everyone does work together, and collaboration is not only rewarded, but it's celebrated. I think that's a very positive thing to create within a culture, and that culture is important.
Very important. Well, we have one more question. This one
Sure.
comes from Edward. What value do you think an MBA focusing on sports management provides future leaders?
I think it provides some value. I would say it depends on your experience level. I think a lot of people, a lot of my friends have gone back to business school at certain crossroads times in their careers. I would tell you that I don't think 4 years of undergrad and then moving straight into a year of graduate school, especially in something like a sports management MBA, is necessarily what I would recommend that you do. I think you need to go and get some real world experience. So when you're getting your graduate degree, you can have something to rely on and kind of help shape your opinions and help shape some decisions. You can get that real world experience by volunteering at different events and different, with different organizations while you're in school. That's what I was fortunate enough to do, and I would recommend that to anyone who wants to break into this industry, because it's hard to break into. I would say the toughest time I had in trying to get into the sports business was literally trying to get interviews and be seen for those first few jobs that I had. But you had to be tenacious and you had to really work at it to try and get that done. I would say there is value to graduate degrees, but I would say you want to balance that with real world experience for sure. I think if you have that real world experience once you move into graduate school, I think it's going to be that much more beneficial for you as well.
And it sounds like work ethic and tenacity matter a lot too.
Work ethic. Look, these may seem like glamorous jobs, but they are long, hard hours, and you're doing really fun things. On the surface, it's fun for people to walk up to you at cocktail parties and talk to you about that you work in sports, but it's long meetings and emails and office stuff, just like any other job. It just so happens that the subject matter is really fun.
Yeah. Well, we've got another question coming up. This one is from Justin. In an environment where everyone is original content, is the Golf Channel interested in creating a scripted or non-scripted series?
We've done non-scripted series. We have looked at different scripted series, and for those of you who don't know, a non-scripted series is basically a reality show. A scripted series is more a sitcom or a drama that's written. The non-scripted series, we've done several competition reality shows. Probably the most famous is The Big Break, where at the end of the show, the person that wins gets an exemption onto the PGA Tour or the LPGA Tour, which is very popular for almost 20 different seasons here at Golf Channel. We've done some other unscripted shows where we're basically following a few players who are trying to make it onto or make it back to the PGA Tour in a lot of different instances, and different hurdles have been thrown their way, different things that have happened in their life. It makes for some pretty dramatic television. I will tell you that the business for those types of shows on what is a predominantly live sports network is getting thinner and thinner as we strive to have more and more live programming or programming that's more evergreen. Unfortunately, the competition reality shows that aren't necessarily live on cable TV, once the outcome is known, the business model for that is relatively shot. There's not much of a long tail in a revenue standpoint like there used to be. We've taken a look at it. We've taken a look at a lot of comedies, which are something we thought would be great for golf. And I think there may be someday when we try to have something like that works. But right now, our real focus is on as many live events as possible. We've had some real success with big documentary series that kind of play out over several nights, and almost like a mini series would. We did one a couple of years ago with a lot of critical acclaim and a lot of buzz that was all based on the life and legacy of Arnold Palmer, called Arnie, which was 3 nights after the Masters, and it really did well for us. But that was a project that took 2 years to put together. And we're working on some others like that, on some of these big historical figures in the game. And those types of programs will work for us for quite some time, and they're evergreen because you're telling a story in a biography type way. But the world is changing, as I was talking about before. It's not only everything's available on your phone, but everything's also available on VOD. So people don't necessarily have to watch a taped program. They can watch it whenever they want. A live show is different. A live sporting event that has an outcome that if you miss that outcome, it's really no good to you. Yeah. Those are different, and those are the most powerful things probably in all of media.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question. This one comes from Glenn. How has advertising and sponsorship of sports television changed with digital production and distribution, and what career opportunities does this create?
Well, I think from an advertising and sponsorship standpoint, I think digitally, people talk a lot about native advertising or integrated advertising. It's the consumer is very savvy on what's advertising or not now. I mean, we all know now that if you do a Google search and the top few searches come up as something that's necessarily paid for, we're all savvy enough to kind of see the difference between something that's advertising and something that is real content. So there obviously is a move for advertisers to try to create more and more content. In golf specifically, what we're focused on here, we have an advertising production house that actually produces a lot of the commercials for our different clients, because they come to us with a product portfolio or a new product they want to launch, and they know a lot about their business, but they may not have a sensibility for golf, and that's what we provide them. So a lot of the commercials that we produce are commercials that will work well within our golf environment. They'll be very authentic to the game of golf, and they cut through a little bit more as something that may have been produced without a golf authentic or golf kind of passion behind it. So I think there's a real benefit for kind of thinking about commercial opportunities or commercial creative in a way that is seen as more of a content offering as opposed to an advertising offering. And I would say this, that kids are coming out of high school now, or even junior high, definitely college, that are able to edit video on their laptops in some pretty incredible ways, where we have some terrific award-winning editors here who are working on huge machines and that are very expensive. So the editing process and the age at which kids really are learning how to edit great, whether it be films or TV shows or commercials or just fun music videos and things, mashups. The art of it is something that I think more and more people, because technology is so readily available, more and more people are coming out of school with a real skill of being able to edit content in a way that they never were able to do before. I mean, you really had to go to school. I remember taking a film class, and we were literally splicing film. We were cutting the film, and you basically tape it back together. Now, I'm sure that does not exist, and everything's being done through iMovie or on a Mac or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question from Tom. How's
Sure.
Golf Now going to affect the future of the golf club membership model?
Golf Now right now is for public courses, resort courses, things like that are available. If you look at about 16,000 golf courses in this country, roughly 10,000 of them are private. Golf Now is not in business with those. Golf Now is anytime you would pay to get a tee time, Golf Now's helping you from providing all the options and providing all the choice in kind of a one-stop shopping mode. It's really focused on that. It's not focused on private clubs and things like that. I don't think that will change too much. I think private clubs themselves are evolving, but not necessarily being as stuffy, and they're being more inviting than they were in the past. And they're also focused on a lot more offerings than just golf, and fitness centers are being built. Daycare is an option. There's a lot of things that are options that weren't options in the past.
That's awesome. Sounds like it would be great if you're traveling, going to a city and
it's really popular for people who may be traveling for business or traveling for vacation, and they don't necessarily know the offerings in the area. They can go to the website, they can get reviews from other golfers, and they can decide on what they want to pick based on price, location, different amenities, and the time in which they have to play.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Let's see, another question coming up. I think we have one about to emerge here, but let me ask you a question a little bit about talent acquisition. What do you look for in people you're hiring?
That's a great question. It's important for me, as you're building an organization, hundreds and hundreds of different people, that you want diversity of thought, you want diversity of background, you want people who are coming to the business from a lot of different areas. If you get too many people who, like in our world, too many people who played golf in college and that's the way they're looking at this, as opposed to someone who's approaching this as they may be, they may love golf, but they're coming at it from a recreational standpoint. And plus we may have some people who are in this business because they love television. You want a blending of all of those different types of people, what their passions are, what their technical skills and abilities are, what their social backgrounds are, because we're going to be able to build an organization that looks and thinks and feels a lot like the rest of our country does, because we're trying to create products that are consumed widely by the rest of the country and increasingly are all around the world. So that's really important. I think you want people who come to work every day with a smile on their face. I think a lot about our employees, and there's that moment we all can identify with this, where you leave your home, and in between leaving your home and getting to work, there's a transition that's made there in your mind. So what are our employees thinking about when they come into work? Are they coming in thinking about, man, I got this great idea that I can't wait to share with the people around me, or I can't wait to find out what so-and-so's done with this thing we were working on yesterday. That mindset and that mentality, it comes from a positive person. And it doesn't take too many negative people to really ruin and poison a culture. So you can spend years and years and years and millions of dollars of kind of doing all the right things to build a really positive, progressive, forward-thinking culture. And it only takes a couple of bad decisions or a couple of bad apples or a couple of poor communications to ruin that. So I like to have people who are coming to work with an energy and a positive energy that's influential and infectious on the people around them. Usually, in my position, by the time, if I'm interviewing someone, by the time they get to me, they've gone through enough interviews and things like that. One, they know what the job is. They have a pretty good sense of it. There are several people around the organization who think they would be a good fit. You can pretty much tell within the first few minutes if you think someone's going to be a good fit for your organization. And that has a lot to do with the way people can carry themselves and have a positive can-do attitude. You're going to learn the job. You're going to bring the right skills to the job. But you make a decision every day if you're going to wake up and have a positive attitude or not. And that decision that people bring into work, for me, is really, really important. I mean, I walk the halls a lot here, and you talked earlier about leadership. I kind of lead by walking around. It's easier to spend a couple of minutes in someone's doorway and get caught up on what's going on, and then hop down the hallway and visit with someone else, and be very visible and answer and ask a lot of questions, because that communication and letting people know how decisions are being made are really important.
That's awesome. Great advice. And actually, that's a perfect segue. Our videos are now ready. So let's take a moment, and we've got a few minutes left, and we'll show the first video.
What I would do is I would say that just leading to this, I've talked a lot about culture and why that's important, and talking about that culture of collaboration and why I think it's so important in a business like ours, where we have all these different people working on different things, but if they work on them together, it makes the business even better. So that notion of collaboration, or that notion of together, is really important for us. So look, we're a television network, and so we do video as well, but we try to put things together that'll allow our employees to rally around things, especially some of these really critical parts of our culture, which is really about creating that culture of collaboration where people feel empowered to work together. So this tape is an example of that.
That's the championship video.
That's the one about the Golf Channel family.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the Golf Channel family video.
Tasting the thrill, standing on the edge, just swinging a leg.
Time left. I just want to play that one.
We can make our own rules, do it together. Oh, come on and say it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That was great. And in that interim, we did have one more question come in. So we're going to finish with this one from Edward. With golf on the decline and courses closing, what steps are you taking to get golf back on a growth pattern?
Well, I think there's been research lately that shows that there are roughly 150 golf courses a year that are closing. That pattern will continue for the next several years, and that needs to happen to kind of correct a supply and demand issue that was created not unlike subprime mortgages that the country's been recovering from for the last several years. There was a boom in cheap money that was borrowed, and golf courses were built as real estate developments. And just like there were a lot of foreclosures on houses, that's happening with golf courses as well. Simple market correction, going to take several more years. As far as participation in the game is concerned, been about 25 million golfers a year who play 18 holes of golf on a regular basis. That is down slightly over the last 10 years or so, but if you go back further than that, it's up quite a bit. So these are long cyclical trends that happen in golf. There are a lot of new things that are happening in the game where we all don't have time to play 18 holes of golf, but we go play 9 holes, or I go play 3 holes with my kids, or go to the driving range with my kids, or go to other facilities and have experiences around the game of golf that I think are really popular and are getting a lot of younger people involved in the game. What we saw this past year, which is kind of a changing of the guard from the Phil Mickelsons and the Tiger Woods to Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy and Ricky Fowler. I think these are young, marketable stars of the game who are going to be around for the next 2 decades plus and will be dominant in the game and are embracing social media and kind of being on a stage 24/7 in a way that stars in the rest of pop culture and other places in sports are embracing the world. We have got a terrific crop of kids. We do the NCAA championships live, both men and women, every spring. Terrific crop of kids that are coming out of college they're so advanced as the way the pros were coming out 20 years ago. because they know the golf courses, they know the lifestyle. The game is healthy and will be for quite some time. And I think it will be led by these young stars, both on the men's and the women's side of the game for years to come.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And Mike McCarley, we want to thank you again, Wildcat and president of NBC Golf. We appreciate you today being our cat in the corner office. We hope to see you sometime in Tucson or maybe on the golf course.
I hope to be in Tucson soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.